Right, I'd like to play around with the conceptual mass objects, just so you can see the incredible power they are for form making. And so I'm just going to play at random. I'm not trying to make something nice, I'm just trying to show something. Now, first off, so you should recognize this 3D view of the Century Square Tower site. And of course I can get these tools out. I like the one that's the full navigation wheel, and I can orbit, and you'll notice here in the middle there's something called the pivot in green there, and that determines what we're pivoting around as we orbit. And if I move the center, I can move the pivot to a new location, and it should snap. And now I'm orbiting around the building. It's much more convenient. So getting familiar with the navigation wheel, the look command, the up, down, the walk, the rewind is also really useful. It means I can just rewind back to a previous view. Okay, so let me show you how we can really play around with this. I'm going to go to the ground floor, and here we are looking at the site. And I'm going to pick the tower building, and I'm going to edit in place. So that's editing the mass element that we created earlier. And I can pick this form element, and I can X-ray it and see the parts that are there. So see the nodes of it. If I tab, should be able to select a node. If I press the space bar, it changes the coordinate system. See? Space bar. Now I can move this node around, and I'm reshaping the form element. So if I finish mass, we could look at it in 3D and see what happened. So see, it's reshaped all the way through. Notice that the mass floors also changed, so it all kept up to date. Now let's go back, and I'll pick it again, and I'll edit in place again. This time I'm editing in the 3D view, and I can move these nodes around. Right now I've got them locked together. So if I unlock right here, then the bottom profile, which is and the top profile can be different. So I can skew that over and make a different kind of shape for my building. Get very expressive with it if I want to. Pull this corner up. So it really starts to take on a very different shape. Now, I can modify these in much more radical ways. So I'm going to pick this edge down here, and I'm going to simply delete it, and the whole thing changes. It's not quite what I wanted, but it's a possibility. I'm going to go back to the earlier one and go to the ground floor again and pick the mass and edit in place. And I'm going to pick an edge here. Well, an X-ray view. I'm just going to dissolve it entirely. So I'll dissolve it. And when you dissolve it, it goes back to its original form element, which was only this bottom piece. So if I pick that and I delete this one edge, then I can play around with, say, what if we introduced a curve here? So I'm going to use my spline through points, and it's not quite working the way I want. So let's stop. And I know what's happening. So I'm drawing on the wrong level, so I need to go and set my work level. See, instead I was drawing on level 200. I need to come back to the ground floor level and draw on that. And I'm going to do a spline through points. Let's see if we can see that. Don't know what happened to it. I'll do a spline through points, starting from this end point. And create a nice reverse curve there. And I want to trim this back. So I'm going to use my trim tool here. So select the first line or wall to trim, this one to this one. That won't trim those. Maybe it'll cut them short. So pick that one and pick here. And it's not quite what I wanted. Yeah, I was doing this before. It's finding the midpoint, I think, which is not what I want. Well, let's just delete that one and do a new one. I mean, it's kind of what you've got to be prepared to do, is just play around with it. I want it to be a model, point. It's not what I want. Delete it. Model, spline through points. There we go. Gives me that warning message again. Okay. Now I'm getting my spline through points the way I want it. All right, good. So I can pick those two objects, those two lines, and create a form. I want it to be the extruded form. I can extrude it taller. I've got this sort of piano shape, and it's kind of cool. We can look at it, not bad, but let's edit it some more. So another thing I might want to do is I'm going to set a placement plane to be the 9th floor, and I'm going to draw a rectangle on that floor like this. I could rotate that rectangle, not a bad, just an extra complexity here. Good. We can look at that from different angles to see what happens. So it's kind of high. I wonder if I could change the floor level. Change the host to be, say, the 6th floor, and it drops down there. I want it to be the 9th floor. Let's make it the 9th floor again. There we go, 9th floor. So I'm changing the host that's holding that shape. And I can take this and make a void pop up here. And let's make the void go all the way up through. And we slice it away, and we sliced away, and we've got a more kind of complicated shape. Well, let's keep sculpting it. I can pick this and ungroup it, I guess. I think I can pick that. Yeah. See, I can tab select until I get the void object. I could actually edit the void object, such as unlocking its profile and x-ray it so I can see the points, and then I can start dragging these points around and make that rectangle into a stranger shape. That's the goal, right? Making it strange. Okay, so it's stranger. We're getting there. Now, another thing I can do, edit in place, pick the mass object. I could dissolve it. I can't x-ray it anymore, but that's okay. I can pick an edge, and I can move the edge around, which is kind of neat. I can pick the point, and well, let's try this. Pick the overall thing, and or pick an edge on it. I can add a edge to it. Like that. And then I've got another segment here that I can move around and shape it some more. There's a So I just want to point out that you can make all sorts of shapes out of this. I'm going to pick this top surface here, and I'm going to draw a circle on it. And I'm going to take that circle and I'm going to extrude it. So that's kind of neat. I could, on the top of that, I could set another plane, and I could draw a line like this and zoom in closer on it, and I could create a spline here that is attached to that line but comes out and curves around and back to the line. The important thing is that that spline intersected this axis here. I'm calling it an axis because if I pick these two, then I can create a form here through revolution. Now I can change the starting angle and the ending angle. Let's just make it 180 degrees, and it will just kind of sit on top of the building like that. And I can finish mass, and I've got a much more interesting and strange kind of shape. And notice that the mass floor is updated throughout that process. Now, I would say you should try playing around with this. Just randomly, not try to design anything, just see what you can make. Read about conceptual mass objects, all the different ways you can make forms. You could make a set of curves like the rainfall model and sweep them together to make a form. You can add edges and add profiles to further manipulate the form. You can sweep through multiple profiles at different floor levels to make a tower that shrinks and expands and deviates in different ways. Just play with a lot of things. And after you've played with it a little bit, then start to think about the urban design. Look at the vicinity model and start to see what the building could relate to. It could relate to South College. It could relate to Northgate. It could relate to Kyle Field. It could relate to the engineering technology building. And start to sculpt it to have this relationship to the things around it and the forms around it. And that becomes just another of your kit of tools to play with and experiment with. But it's an incredibly powerful tool. I want to show you one more power to it. This is just ridiculous, ridiculously powerful. I can go to the wall tool, and I can do wall by face. And I can pick a face, and I just put a wall on that face. It's not showing the wall. I'm not quite sure why. It says it's not visible in this view. Maybe I've got the walls turned off. Yeah, got the walls turned off. Turn the walls back on. Turn the windows on. That would be good. Turn the roofs on. Turn the, that's enough for now. So now I've got walls on these strange, weird faces. I can put a roof up here too. So, whoops, I have to go to roof by face, and I can put a roof up here. So you can see that I can very, very rapidly create a design or a building out of manipulating the conceptual mass objects, pushing and pulling them, adding wall by face, roof by face, I can even put a curtain wall by face on here. That's what I'm looking for by Friday, is just go wild with playing with the conceptual mass, creating forms. Think about it from a functional point of view, too, that you might have the first 2 floors of the building are one mass, and they're defining a market area. Then on top of that, you have another mass, which is an office building. And on top of that, you've got a couple of floors of penthouse apartments. So that would be 3 separate mass objects that you could manipulate independently. You could take a void object and take it up through to make a courtyard in it all. Just try out lots of different ideas, explore and see what you can get. Okay, have fun.